everyone.
Yeah, this is like we've been interrogated here.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us for the next half hour or so for largely unscripted, though we are going to work from notes. Look at the next decade-ish of what's going to be happening in immersive tech and do our best to also root it in today's reality. I'm Tony Parisi, head of VR and AR strategy at Unity Technologies. And I'm going to tell you my story in a minute, but Rikard?
Yeah, so I'm president of Viveport, but I also senior vice president of virtual reality at HTC. And we're super excited to be here, so thank you for coming and having us. But maybe give a quick introduction of Vive. I think most of you are familiar. But our mission is to unleash human imaginations from the limitations of reality. So very bold. And the way we organize our business, we essentially have 4 pillars. The first one is, of course, the technology platform that you're all very familiar with. And then the second one is the marketplace and software, which I run, which is Viveport, the global app store, live in 32 markets. And then we also have a studio where we do some first, second-party content in VR, trying to push the boundaries of what VR can be. And then the fourth pillar is ViveX, which is an accelerator where we're in 5 markets, run biannual program. We made 66 investments the past 18 months, trying to help those startups and come up with new enabling technologies. That's quickly.
And a little bit about Unity. If you don't know about us, well, if you do know about us, you probably think about us as a game engine, but we're much more than that. We're the leading platform for creating interactive content on the planet. We have over 1 million active monthly developers, and we reach over 1 billion unique monthly devices every month. We're getting 1 billion gameplays or more, and it turns out that we have the largest independent advertising platform on the planet because of that. So we do more than power content creation. We help with monetization. Our developers made more money from us last year than we made selling them our software. So we're right at the center of an ecosystem that is worldwide at this point, and we're moving our business beyond the game business. We're taking that playbook and we're moving it into other industries like automotive, brand creative, architecture, and some other vertical markets that we may get into in this discussion. So that's about our companies, but folks in the audience, they may know about us, they may have seen us before, but I thought it'd be great to start this off really by getting a bit of a personal story, because I don't even know this, and you might know my deal, Rikard. So can you tell folks how you got into this, and what led you to the point you're at now in your career? And why are you in VR? Let's give people a little snapshot of that.
Okay, so I started out my life as a computer geek, doing software programming in the 80s, very spaghetti programming. And then I always been fascinated about technology. And I was at Google for many years. I was one of those glass holes fanatics, always passionate about sort of Internet of Things. I ran a media company which was very, very big in video on demand, and we got into esports and built the world's largest esports player. And a couple of years back, we started broadcasting esports in 360 live streaming, so that the millions of esports fans could actually teleport themselves to be in the audience, sit next to their favorite gamer, or even teleport into the game. And I was so fascinated about the potential there. And roughly 2 years ago, I met Cher Wang, who owns HTC, at CES. Because I decided I'm going to go into virtual reality, and I met her, and well, here I am.
Nice. My history is a wee bit longer, but I'll try and compress it for folks. But I'm going to start with what got me into VR in the first place. I was a little kid, and it was 1977, and Star Wars was in the theaters. And I went and saw Star Wars, and that scene where Princess Leia delivers the urgent message to Obi-Wan Kenobi for the revolution made such an amazing impression on me. I mean, there she was, tabletop Princess Leia, right, in midair. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was going to lead me down my path to VR. I came up through programming as well. I was a programming geek doing random things, working in database companies, whatever. But at each job I had, I kept finding the project where somebody was doing 3D graphics. And I was good at the math for that. I was good at linear algebra. So I eventually sort of worked my way into just being the 3D guy, which turned into moving out to the Bay Area with my wife, reconnecting with this guy named Mark Pesci, who we had met a few months before, who had also relocated from New England to San Francisco, and he said, I want to glue 3D graphics to the internet. And this was the early 90s at this point. And I said, oh, you mean like Snow Crash? Do folks know here know what Snow Crash is? It's like Ready Player One, but 20 years before that. Basically the same story. And so we embarked on this project called VRML, the Virtual Reality Modeling Language, which was not really VR. There had been, 25 years ago, you folks probably know this history, there was an attempt to do consumer VR like way before it was ready. So refugees from that movement, including this guy Mark, decided we're going to take a simple baby step and we're just going to get 3D graphics running in a web browser. And we worked on that project. That was really great, but even that was about 20 years too early. We just didn't have the technology infrastructure to do it well. We learned a lot, moved on. So fast forward through a lot of other stuff in my life, and then when consumer VR became resurgent, folks just kind of came out of the woodwork and found me. Hey, you've got some history in this. We did some Googling. Do you want to advise our company? Do you want to be on stage at SVVR, the first SVVR? And I got up on stage, introduced myself, and said VRML, and I got a standing ovation, which was bizarre because I couldn't get arrested in this town for 10 years doing 3D graphics for the web, right? So what a difference a decade makes. So that's my story, long story short.
Maybe in 20 years, people will be on stage talking about Ready Player One and say, I watched this movie, Ready Player One.
Or not on stage, right? It'll all be completely virtual, which gets right? It'll be completely distributed, which gets us to so this talk is VR 2025. We're gonna root a lot of this in reality, but we want to look forward a little bit. So let's start there. Let's cut to the chase. Rikard, take me to 2025. What's happening?
How hard can that be? So
we got this.
Predicting the future is, as we all know, very hard, and you're often wrong. But when thinking about the future, I think there are two different dimensions to consider. One is what is happening in society. So if you think about what's happening, we have a rising population. We're becoming more and more people. People are getting older. So that's very important to see. What implications does that have? We have other things happening. People are moving into cities. Urbanization is happening very, very quickly. And then you have, our planet. You have climate change. That's going to be in the next 8 years, which we're talking about here. It's going to have dramatic impact. I mean, we all see it, but we're kind of like the frog that's being boiled very, very slowly. So if you think what's happening in the society, and then you look at what most people will consider is like, what is the technology trend? So, of course, we have the Moore's law and the different laws that we're all familiar with, which will continue to go on. But I think there are like 3 things that I think is going to be very important. The first one is the rise of very high-speed broadband, so the rise of 5G and beyond, which is going to make sure that you're going to have significant bandwidth both to servers in the cloud, but also between devices. The second one is the rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning, which will enable completely new technology and services. And the third one is, of course, which we are here to talk about, AR and VR, where we're kind of in the first sort of generation of this edition of VR and AR. And in the next 8 years, it's going to go through several generations. So let me give you an example. So 8 years ago, in 2009, there was no iPad. iPad was launched in 2010 in April. So 8 years ago, there was no iPad, which of course, we all know, became one of the most fastest growing consumer electronics devices since the dawn of time. And today, we don't really think about iPad. You're not going to talk about how you're going to go on your iPad and do things. Probably in the beginning, people were wondering, why do you even have an iPad? Because you have a phone and you have a laptop. Why would I need this thing in between? And you all asked it, and then eventually you bought it. So just when you think ahead then, we're kind of in the early days of virtual reality. So what does it mean? So I think I have 2 predictions. My first one is that the mobile phone will die and will be reborn. And what's going to happen, I think, is that we will have a decoupling between the screen and the computing source and the access to the cloud. Which means that today, when you have your phone, or we're looking at the new cool iPhone that some of you are going to buy, it kind of has everything. It has the screen, it has computing, it has network access, and I do think that that's going to change. And we're starting to see this thing with, Internet of Things. We're having our bracelets, we're having our rings, so I do think that there will be something which connects you to the net and has the computing power, but the screen might be somewhere else. So, which means that when you think about VR and you think about the headsets and the future glasses and things like that, you only need to have the screen or the projector there, but all the computing power and the network access can be somewhere else. Does it make any sense? So the phone will die and will be reborn in a completely new shape, where it is divided among different devices. The second thing, my prediction is that we will not talk about AR and VR anymore. And we will not talk about MR or any other Rs. So, today, we're not talking about what are you going to do on your iPad today, because it's just a way to access some content and services. So I do think that, AR and VR and the whole sort of continuum will be part of our everyday life. It will be the way we, access entertainment and enjoy ourselves, having cinematic experiences, interactive experiences, playing games. It will be the way our kids, today they're Googling their homework. Tomorrow they will probably do the same thing, but they will access AR and VR to, enhance their education. Teachers will use it as a tool. In our business, today we spend probably all of our time in front of a screen, a computer screen or a mobile screen. We're just going to access AR and VR technology in our daily life. When you're looking at that report or that presentation, or you're doing training or you're doing collaboration. So AR and VR will be part of our everyday life for entertainment, education, and our enterprise use. So we will not talk about AR and VR or MR or any other R in 8 years' time.
Well, I'm with you 100% of both of those.
I thought we should argue.
But we'll find something else to argue about soon enough.
Okay.
So let me paint a picture that's probably quite compatible with that. So imagine it's 2025. My son Lucian will probably, at that point, he's probably getting his master's degree. So he gets into a self-driving car.
That's what you hope for.
Yes, I'm hoping, yeah. So he gets into a self-driving car, which was completely designed in virtual reality with no physical prototypes. That self-driving car is part of a network that was simulated billions of times in a compute cloud using 3D simulation technology to enhance safety, to make sure these things aren't crashing into each other. Potentially remote managed, by a network manager who's in some kind of VR or XR interface watching the whole network. He gets into that thing, it's driving itself, and what is in the cabin of that self-driving car but anything you need holographically. There's an entertainment center in there, so you just dial up any kind of entertainment you want. You talk to it, most likely by then you're talking to it and asking for some kind of social feed, checking in on your friends. Your old dad, incoming call from old dad, hey, what's going on? By then I've moved somewhere else, it's not the Bay Area, and he's zipping around, and a video call comes up and that's all floating in space in front of him. That does not seem too far-fetched for 8 years from now, in my opinion. I don't know what you think about that, Rikard, but...
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, exactly. But, can you see that?
Yeah,
can you see that in 8 years at the rate things are going? And what we just discussed touches pretty much every industry. It transforms every business. It transforms the manufacturing business, entertainment. I forgot to mention the Unity Power ad that was probably in that car as well. Brand advertising, interactive entertainment. I think the list would go on. Transportation. And I think we all collectively envision that, which is why we're here at a conference like this, that it is going to transform business, it is going to transform entertainment, it's going to transform lifestyle. And so I think the places where it comes together like that, it's very interesting because that would mean effectively, like you said, the death and rebirth of the smartphone. Yes. Right? Because you're going to have that phone call, but it's not going to be delivered through a gizmo like a phone. It's going to be embedded into the infrastructure around you. There will be IoT support for that. There will be, ubiquitous computing there, some in the cloud, some locally. Anyway, Would you like to take it from there?
Yeah, so can we have a shout out? Do you think yes, no, maybe? What do you think? Maybe? Yes?
Yes.
All of it.
All of it. Okay. Yeah, we have a I think everyone agrees here. For the videotape, everyone agrees.
Silence, assent, right?
So let's talk a little bit about how we're going to get there.
Exactly.
Do you want to start or should I start?
You go, because you're right there on the hardware trends. I mean, you're looking at this stuff all the time. Unity's coming from a software
You want me to ask you, or do you want me to talk
No,
about
go
it?
for it. No, I think you should
Okay.
get started with where you think hardware is today and what the big trends are, and then I'll take it into the software and production side.
Okay. All right. So, it's a super exciting time. I think some people would argue that, yeah, the hype was last year, and, we're sobering up a little bit. But actually, I would argue there's never been a more exciting time to be in AR and VR. And if you look at the past 2 months, with the announcements of our friends from Microsoft and bringing all their PC partners to the table, with the recent Oculus Connect and the advances that they're announcing, we had announcements from Google, from Samsung. We made an announcement together with Google for standalone. We made an announcement for standalone in China. So just in the past couple of months, sort of since we came back from summer holiday, there's been like a significant movement. And if you ever have a doubt if this is going to happen or not, if you take not only HTC, and we're very humble, but there are some other bigger international companies that putting all in that this is going to happen. So it is going to happen. So the question then is, how is this going to happen? And I think one of the things which we're seeing great improvements when it comes to mobile VR, which I've been very, very skeptical about, because on the one hand, it could be a great introduction for someone to see, a 360 video or something. But the problem with VR is that it's kind of hard to imagine and explain. It's like this, the Matrix, when Neo sits in front of Morpheus and he says, red pill, blue pill, because you can't explain the Matrix. You have to experience it. Mm-hmm. So if people trying on a mobile phone think that is virtual reality, it is not virtual reality, because you're not changing your reality. You don't think that you're somewhere else. If you think that looking through a mobile phone and seeing some dinosaurs dancing on the table is augmenting your reality, it is not. It's a nice little gimmick where you can see something, enhance information. But you don't think you're in a different reality. You don't think that the dinosaurs are real. However, you will, in 2025, you'll think they are real, because they're going to be in your living room. So I do think that the high-end VR, sort of the PC-based VR, of course, where you have the sense of true presence, you have room scale where you can move around and interact with objects, you have so many sensory input that your brain thinks it's more probable that the virtual reality is the real reality. And maybe it is. I mean, who knows what reality is? I always talk with my wife about a lot of things. We have very different perceptions on what reality is. And we're kind of in the same place. So who knows what reality is? But I think as we move into next year, what's going to be very, very exciting is that it's kind of cumbersome to take your phone and put it in something and put it up. And also your phone is very personal. It's not that something you're going to give away to your friend. It's kind of a personal thing. And of course, if you have a phone that has to do phone stuff and VR stuff, it's not optimized. And of course, with PC VR, you have to have a PC, you need to install it, and there might be various tracking. It's kind of complicated. It's not for the everyday user. So therefore, I do think that with the rise of these standalone devices that doesn't need a phone or a PC, you just kind of put it on, and you're in that kind of environment. So I think, most people in their houses don't have the high-powered PC in the living room next to the TVs and sofas. But actually, you could, on the coffee table, you could have one of these standalone devices, or maybe two, so you can do shared experiences. At work, you could very easily imagine that you have this station. It's going to probably cost, less than a computer and a screen, so you're just going to put it on. And also for entertainment, everything from these arcades that we saw to cinemas to any kind of entertainment center. So I do think that standalone devices is going to be very, very important going forward. I do think that the evolution of mobile, because we have such a big install base, is going to, of course, be important. But we have, tens of millions of PCs out there that, of course, you can upgrade. We have, tens of millions of game consoles. So I do think that the whole market is going to grow very, very quickly. We'll see if it grows as quickly as the iPad. But it's happening. It's happening now, and the reason it's happening is that we're getting more and more content and services. So the value of buying a device is much higher. In the first year, you always talk about price points because you don't really see the value. However, if your kids can get an A, you're going to pay for it. If you can be smarter at work, you're going to pay for it. If you're going to have more fun, whatever the fun is, you're going to pay for it. So I do think that the price discussion is going to evolve, because you're going to pay $1,800 for your next iPhone, and you're not going to blink. You're going to stand in line to do that. So of course, if you pay $400 to $600 for a VR AR device in the future, of course you're going to do that. So anyway, so that's where I think we are.
Oh, it's great. There's several threads I want to pick up on. I'll try the first one first. So let's talk about the standalone device that HTC has teased out. Why don't you drill into the details a little bit there, and what you think what it actually is, what its role is going to be in this ecosystem, and its importance to consumers. I like the way you kind of wound that up with the value proposition. But take us there. Start with the announcement.
Yeah. So what was announced is that it's a standalone. So essentially, it's separate screen, so high-end sort of visual headset, but it also has the computing inside the device. You don't need PC or mobile, so you can just put it on. The headset is 6 dimensions of freedom, which means that you can sort of look around, jump up and down, but you can also move around in your room. So it has inside-out tracking, which means that cameras are essentially mapping the room so that you can walk around.
So no external sensors to set up?
No external sensors. We'll see if it's going to be plug and play, the first version, but it's essentially you just put it on. The controller is going to initially be 3 dimensions of freedom, and what that means is that it's kind of a laser pointer, so you can move around, you can point at something, and you can click and interact with it. However, you cannot do a tennis racket movement, because then you need 6 dimensions of freedom. You actually have to move something and click at the same time. So 6 dimensional freedom is of course coming.
I'm sure in the short term a lot of people are going to be frustrated by that design choice, but I'm sure there's a lot of thoughtful design that went into doing that instead of going straight for $6.
Yeah. So if you have Samsung Gear or Google Cardboard today, it's a 3-dimensional control. You kind of pointing and clicking at the aliens or the design or spinning it or something like that. But the next generation, if you take the Vive for example, the controllers, I could throw you the controller and you'll see it and you'll catch it. So it's 6 dimensions of freedom.
Okay, so another thread we were talking about here was, this is good. I'm going to pick up on this one. The AR Core AR kit. You said that's not augmented reality. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah,
we might have our first fight here.
Oh,
but I may be half-hearted. But anyway, let's try.
So here's what I think. I think that most people that I talk to say, yeah, VR is going to be big, but AR is going to be bigger, and it's going to come first. And what people are saying is that, well, we all have a mobile phone, and now that Google and Facebook and Apple and everyone is coming out with these great tools to create augmented reality experience, basically using your camera. So my argument would be that it's not augmented reality, it's augmented camera. Because you're kind of just adding additional information or objects that seem three-dimensional when you look through. So your mind does not really believe that the elephant is in the room. You'll see the elephant, but you don't believe it. The next generation of augmented reality, when you then probably have some sort of glasses or projecting into your eye, you will still sit at home and you'll see the elephant in the room, and you'll actually think that that elephant might actually be there, or that person or that avatar, because it's going to be freaking intelligent and talk to you. It's going to be the Obi-Wan Kenobi moment again. So that's why I think it's hard to do real AR that you really believe, because if there is a glitch somewhere, the illusion is kind of destroyed. So I do think that that's why VR is going to work first, and then we're going to move from augmented camera to augmented reality.
Yeah, well, I mean, this notion of belief that requiring tricking all the senses, that's something I actually do take issue with. I mean, because I can look at my phone in a stream of tweets and all of a sudden my world is turned upside down and the government's falling apart. So I don't think you need to have a full simulation.
Are we really in reality? Or is this really happening?
Yes, exactly. You know where I'm going with that. So I don't think we need to actually trick all the senses in order to be able to do that. I also do think, per what Clifton was teasing a little earlier, we kind of actually are in the trough of disillusionment if you're coming from the point of view, or the gap of disappointment, as my boss John Rikard likes to call it, or the chasm, as Jeffrey Moore called it. if you believe the expectations that were unrealistically set largely by, some early froth in our industry, plus the media picking up on it and over-reporting it. I'm not pointing fingers at the media, I'm just saying it's a natural tendency. Everybody gets excited, and then we get to this point where it's like, yay, it's all coming, but we really, we forget that growth is exponential, we think it's linear, and we're seeing, 10 million headsets out there and going, well, shit, that's not enough. But if you forget that and you just look at where we are, we're in a healthy clip of growth. Unity actually collects stats on all this on the VR, and we'll be collecting a lot on AR as these emerge with ARKit and ARCore. So those are healthy, but the thing is, while we're waiting for those great augmented reality glasses, which aren't in the market yet, while we're getting to the hundreds of millions of VR headsets, and we're not there yet, and I agree these trends are promising, all the new stuff coming from Microsoft, Facebook, you guys and everyone, here's something everybody has in their hands that gives folks a taste of immersive content. Now, it's not fully immersive, it doesn't trick all the senses per your definition, but it's 3D stuff placed in the real world on 3D stuff, and it's a simple way. It's just an object on a horizontal surface, tabletop, or floor, or multiple objects. I mean, you could effectively take the upside down from Stranger Things and, make that, overlay that onto an environment with ARKit or ARCore, and this phone is a magic window into that. So yeah, you're holding up your phone. I see me doing this, my arm's already tired, by the way. But 30 to 60 second nuggets of that, people are gonna like that, they're gonna understand it, combine that with the face filters that everyone's doing a la Snap and what's gonna come with the iPhone 10. And it's a stepping stone, it's a gateway drug, just the way a lot of us may say that 360 video is not complete immersion. These are all steps that are practical steps that are gonna educate the world and are going to, that understanding is going to converge with the appetite that these new generations of people have because they've all grown up on science fiction. They've all grown up with CG movies. They've all grown up with interactive content. Now, our kids, right? I mean, they don't know non-interactive content. They don't read print media. So this is all part of a spectrum, and it's a good thing right now as we're in this sort of, not stalled, but sort of questioning moment around VR adoption, that we have some immersive device in everybody's hands right now. I think it's a good thing.
So let me ask you this. I mean, Unity, I've seen the stats, you're the leading platform, not only for VR, but also for AR. So you kind of have a good perspective on what's cooking and what's coming. So when you think about what are those solutions that are going to come out of ARCore and ARKit and whatever is coming around, what are the use cases that's going to take this to the next level, and what are the implications for virtual reality?
So, There's plenty of potential use cases around phone and tablet-based AR. We expect, though, this is early returns. When ARKit came out, there was just a plethora of stuff being tweeted every day, hundreds of examples. Most of these were along the lines of a dancing character on a tabletop. I think that is really cool to get started. So we're in a phase now, I think, where we're going to see these technologies being employed in AR gaming, in AR brand content, and these, they're based on real discussions with the publishers we talk to or the advertisers we talk to. Unity does a lot in advertising, as I mentioned, and what we see when we talk to the creative agencies that are creating the brand advertising content or actually placing the ads and doing the media buys is, love VR, experimental marketing budgets cover VR, we're all going to AR on the phone right now. It's simply a numbers game. Comparing the, generously 10 million devices out there that are deployed and in use every day to the potentially 500 million devices, depending on whose reports you read, for phone-based AR, there's just no contest when it comes to the numbers. So for brand creative, for games, for any kind of consumer apps, you're going to see most of the action go that way. These are the people that were like vital and really cranking hard on VR development. A lot of them are shifting their attention purely to try and get reach, to get to their next metric, their next lily pad, to please an investor or to just establish their business or whatever they're doing. On the industrial side, I think we're going to just start seeing those applications. Now the thing is, I think they're quite a bit limited, because we talked about the limited functionality of something like ARCore, compared to what you can do with full-on, say, Vuforia using Unity. Vuforia is a software toolkit if you're not aware of it, and it does a lot in CPU as well as GPU, as well as with the camera and stuff in the cloud to process images. You can take those technologies and do things like an iPad application that's pointing at a physical piece of equipment like a turbine in an energy application, and find out where it's malfunctioning and give you an overlaid 3D model. So this company, Scope AR, they're a Unity developer, that's actually got a virtual mirror of all the physical content tied to real-world sensors sensing malfunctions in equipment. And so it's a maintenance and repair application done in AR. I don't know how far you can get with the limited functionality of an AR kit or AR core, but I'm sure some folks are going to attempt that too. So we're, we're 3 months in, 4 months into the releases of these software. I think it's a little too early to tell where they're going to take up, but I do suspect we're going to see a few wins there, and it's not going to be pure experimentation. It may end up going back to gaming.
Yeah, I think, we're in an interesting dilemma for virtual reality because, as you said, it's primarily gaming and it's sort of entertainment now, which is great, and it's a great gaming experience. However, for virtual reality to become mass market, we need to have these other use cases around both sort of education, for example, or enterprise evolve. So the question then is, how do you get this party started? Because if you want to create great educational experiences, the penetration may not be there because it's a gaming audience. But on the other hand, if you don't get the content, you're not going to attract the educators and the creative people or the parents or whoever. So someone actually needs to get that started. So that's something that I think both of us are very passionate about, to help those creators, help those developers, help those who are having great IP to come into this world a little bit easier with your platform and some of the initiatives that we're doing as well.
Yeah, let's actually segue into that, because, and I'm with Rikard on this, I think we're going to, a lot of what's going to help us cross this chasm is the business and enterprise applications. That's certainly the way the PC world went, right? It was in the office first and then it came into the home. So it's likely that we're going to see something like that, but we don't know what the patterns are going to be exactly. And so what a lot of people may not know here is the nature of HTC's relationship with Valve, software distribution, the initiatives in entertainment versus what you're doing in enterprise. So could you spell that out for the audience?
Yeah, so we have a great partnership with Steam, who besides being sort of one of the world's leading gaming platforms, with things like Dota 2, and having hundreds of millions monthly active gamers. And they're also a great technology company. So we have a partnership both on the technology as well as on the content and the marketplace. So for example, Steam VR is the operating system, it's a store. We also have a store called Viveport, which I run. And what we have tried to do is to basically complement Steam. So we've been looking at how can we give some extra love and attention and help market and sell people who have education content, creativity content, things that are related to social, to brands, or even some Hollywood, like Ready Player One. Because since the algorithm in the most popular games on something like Steam, we have over 2,000 titles on the platform. I would say 90% is games today, which means that if you're not a game, if you're this museum or you're a creativity hub, you got to be number 1300 or something. No one's going to find you. And no one's going to give you support or market you. So what we try to do is work with these developers, with our studio, with Viveport, to push that. And of course, we're helping the developers, but we're also making new audiences, like the teachers, like the architects and the creators, like Hollywood, come into this industry. They will come eventually, but they'll come a little bit earlier if we do this. So we're trying to accelerate the ecosystem. And then the other thing we want to do is that, since you have to take the pill, we're invested in creating the world's sort of leading arcade platform, where if you want to start an arcade, if you're IMAX or you're just an internet cafe, you can get access to commercial licensed content, which is great because then suddenly everyone, your mom or your little sister, can go and try virtual reality anywhere. You don't have to buy it.
So how does that work? You're doing the publishing effectively? You're going to the content creators and saying, do this arcade-based runtime license instead. We'll handle the billing and all the sort of infrastructure for you.
Correct.
And then we just give arcade owners a kit or pop-up owners a kit, and it's turnkey for them.
Yeah, so it's like you and I couldn't start a cinema with 10 DVDs. We need like a commercial license for the movies. So we have over 700 titles where we have that license, so that we help developers reach those thousands of arcade operators. And because if you're a small developer, you can't make individual deals with hundreds or thousands of arcade operators. And also, if you're an arcade operator, you don't want to go chasing the latest developers because you don't have the skill or the manpower for that. So we kind of.
I'm not checking Twitter. I'm actually going to look at some stats to compliment.
So we're kind of doing we're doing the matchmaking, And I think another thing, I'm just buying you time here,
Yeah, thanks.
is that if you think about the consumption of consumer media, I would bet you that you're not necessarily downloading your videos anymore. You're streaming them on Netflix. I bet you that you stopped pirating MP3 files and actually caved into Spotify or something. So you're streaming. I bet you that you love downloading gigabits of software to have a VR experience and waiting significant amount of time for that. I bet you that you're going to stream your VR experiences very soon. It's going to be on demand. So we started the first VR app sort of subscription service. It's like an early Netflix where you have 5 titles, low monthly price, and then you can swap them. It's the beginning. But what happens is that we only have so much money to spend on content, and today the gamers are spending on games, but then this allows them to experience much more content, and it also is another window for developers. So if of course you're going to sell your sort of launch week, but if you're a year in, this gives you sort of a second round to monetize. I think we have 5 minutes.
We have 5 minutes.
So we should have some questions as well.
Okay, well, let me just take a minute to pick up on that. I was just looking at stats because at Oculus Connect 4, our great analytics team, led by John Chan, Eric Wang, did a talk there based on our data. And the interesting thing is you may say that, Steam, most of those things are games at the top of the list. But of the Unity-powered stuff that's out there across all platforms, I think this is top 10 VR apps by installs. The top one was an experience, the next one was video, the next one was adventure, the next one was experience, video. Game was number 5 on the list of the top downloaded, installed VR stuff out there. So that's maybe an indication, and experience is very big here. The experience could be everything from car configurator to, some world to explore. I don't know what that means. We don't have enough information categorized in the store by app in any of the stores to be able to do better than that. And that's really interesting. I just want to really pick up on this quickly from Unity's standpoint. So I opened the talk up about Unity mentioning this, that we started as a games company, but what we found after making significant investments, partnering with everybody, doing all the great hardware for 3 years, is the company woke up one day, right around the time they hired me to help them with this a year ago. Today's my 1-year anniversary at Unity, by the way. I'm very happy about that. Yeah, thank you. To look at everything else, because everybody was using our stuff to build applications in automotive design, architecture walkthroughs, data visualization, cinematic experience, not gaming, a long list. And so Unity's taking this very seriously, where now actually we've started a whole industrial division to just look at automotive aerospace architecture that's going to build more stuff. It's not just going to be the Unity editor that people know, and inside, a Ford or a GM, they have 10 people with licenses trying to figure out how to convert their CAD data. We're going to give them software to actually do that, which will then help us sell more to them. And, really sort of get to a point where we're giving them a solution, not just an open tool set. And we're going to kind of rinse and repeat on that in other industries. So the idea that we went really deep on gaming, we're going to start in super serving those industries, we're going to do in a few more, which I think is sort of complementary to what you were saying. We think this is how we're going to get across the chasm. We're going to solve business problems for the next little while.
Agreed.
While all these other consumer education things are happening, the form factors are getting smaller, right?
Yeah. So
if you guys want to take a couple of questions,
yes.
First of all, if you decide you want to take this act on the road, I will be your manager.
Right on.
Okay.
Any
Talk to my agent.
Yes.
Hello, it's Hector Prieto by Viveport. This is a question for Rikard. What's the business model do you see for the streaming service you mentioned before?
So the business model for the streaming service. So actually, we already launched the first commercial pilots together with a cable operator in China. So the model is that you basically get 60 gigabits per second in terms of bandwidth, so broadband to your home. You get your sort of videos normal for your TV, but then you also get the Vive headset for free. And you connect the Vive headset to your set-top box. You don't need a high-end PC. And due to the network infrastructure of our partner, you can access Viveport and have essentially all the different experiences for free, but you're running them from the cloud rather than from your PC. So I do think that the business model will be a subscription model, because I think consumers are getting used to it for our phones or for our broadband or for our content services. And then typically, I do think that there will be a combination of some minimum guarantee for the content creators so that they're going to get paid, with an upside based on number of subscribers or how they're performing or use of content, something like that.
And this is in pilot phase right now?
It's a commercial launched thing in China, but I do think there are so many challenges with latency and other things. So I do expect it will take a few years. So maybe we're more sort of towards the vision of 2025 before that's become mainstream.
Rikard from Verizon, to follow on that. As far as streaming VR, I mean, you're talking about having rendering in the cloud and then streaming basically video, right, to the end user, and latency becomes an issue. How about streaming an actual Unity experience instead of having to download the Unity experience to the end user and have the rendering still done on the client? Is that something you guys are looking at?
Well, sir, from a technical perspective, that's the way it's really going to work. I think fully streaming everything with video frames, even on 5G networks, is still going to have latency problems. Honestly, just the software architect in me just freaks out about that. I don't think it's going to work that way. Unity's got several things in the pipeline to figure out how to effectively, dynamically deliver content for lots of different use cases. It's going to start with our gaming, especially on mobile, where right now, you know, if you have to package everything in the app, it makes the app really big. And most of our developers don't have the, you know, necessarily the wherewithal and the skills to figure out how to deploy in the cloud and do it dynamically themselves by rolling it their own. So we're going to make moves in that area over the next little while. It's all still sort of in development. Got time for one more.
Ben Delaney, I'm from Steiber and Greenlight, and I wanted to just make a comment on Richter's comments about reality of augmented experiences. I wanted to point out that Pokemon Go is by far the most successful augmented reality experience we've seen to date, and nobody believed that. The suspension of disbelief is simple, but it's been said that the quality of the interaction is more important than the quality of the graphics. I'm wondering what you think about that.
Yeah, I do actually agree with that because a lot of the even early experiences, it's sometimes more important to have the storytelling and the interactions rather than actually having, you know, the photorealism experience. And I think that goes true for, you know, all storytelling through time, because what happens is that our imagination kind of fills the gap to some extent. And that's why I could talk to you how my kids are in Jurassic Park in front of this big Stegosaurus, and then seeing it eat the grass, hear the roar of the T-Rex, lifts its head, look frightened and start running. And my kids will learn a lot about dinosaurs, how big they are, what they eat, and what they're afraid of. And while I said that, in your mind, you pictured it. So I do think that our mind is very good at filling in the gaps. So what's happening with virtual reality is just that you get more sensory input, so that actually, if I'm the storyteller, I'm going to be able to more correctly project into your mind what's going on. And in 20 years, maybe I'll actually be able to project that into your mind directly, we'll see.